Crooked Doctors. We're going to have a guest today. He's running late. He should actually be walking into the studio in the next 5 minutes or so. In the meantime, I had to go to court this week, and I want to show you how one of the, you know, that I was illegally, oh, here comes our guest. Here's our guest. We just started broadcasting. Come on in. Grab your seat. I got your mic. Thanks for coming. Here you go. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is Mr. Keith LeBeau. Wait, you want to put it on your collar right here?
It's easier here.
You sure?
Yeah.
You sure you want to be down there?
Yeah. Because I have a little bit of a loud voice.
No, that's okay. All right. So, Mr. LeBeau, you want to introduce yourself to our audience?
I think you already did that for me.
Okay. Do you want to tell them about?
Today was a fun day. I happened to be with Miss Radin here in Jersey City, and we happened to be going to get a certain set of files that she needed to further her case. In the course of getting that, we happened to notice that two, I guess you would call them Jersey City police officers, happened to appear in the area of the office we went to, and
wait, let me set this up a little bit. As you know, I spent time in Rikers Island illegally because my medical school lied and conspired with the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. There was a subpoena made July of 2010. That subpoena was a subpoena for my records. So there was a volume of records that was released by my medical school. And from that volume of records, a second volume was created. That second volume was numbered and excluded evidence that showed that I was telling the truth. So from July of 2008 until I got out of Rikers Island almost a year later in March of 2011, the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, in an organized criminal conspiracy with my medical school and my defense attorneys, deliberately, maliciously, willingly, knowingly, with criminal intent, in case you missed all that, hid evidence that showed that I was telling the truth and my medical school was lying. Now, my medical school was in contact with Jersey City Medical Center. And some of the evidence that I presented, and I'll show again, is my educational records. Now, I've been on a, 15-year battle to get my education records. And who has my education records? Jersey City Medical Center. But Lidya Radin, the student, doesn't have her education records. So I'm going to knock down, drag out fight with the, how do I refer to him? The not so honorable Judge Patterson. And one of the attorneys who's helping me doesn't like the fact that I refer to Judge Patterson as the not so honorable Judge Patterson. Had Judge Patterson uphold federal law in 2005, I would not have been physically assaulted and almost murdered at Jersey City Medical Center in 2008. I would not have been maliciously prosecuted by the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. I would not have spent 11 months in Rikers, where I was beaten by a prison guard and inmates. So had Judge Patterson upheld federal law years, see part of this, the inability to articulate, that's part of the nerve damage.
That's also an ongoing condition left by the beating.
Yeah. I have 5 herniated discs, a pinched nerve. I can't fake MRIs and nerve conduction studies. So what I discovered was that Jersey City Medical Center, the place where I was physically assaulted, had my, we went to look at my, about 2, almost 3 weeks ago, we went down to Jersey City Medical Center to see my records. As you know, Debbie Simon at the Hudson County Prosecutor's Office promised me almost 2.5 years ago that she would do an investigation. And she lied. Because step 1, she told me, I can't do an investigation, Lydia, until I get my hands on your medical records. She never bothered asking for my medical records. Now, Bryna Keisner is Director of Medical Records at Jersey City Medical Center. She was fully cooperative with me. She got my hard copies. We brought them to Bryna Keisner's office. I went through it. I detailed the case for Debbie Simon. It's very simple to understand. 3 screening documents show that this is fraud, that there's an ongoing criminal conspiracy with my medical school. My medical school lied to illegally expel me, and they've been stalking me through life trying to turn that lie into a truth.
Now, was Bryna Keisner the woman that I saw the day that I was with you at the hospital?
Yes.
Okay, she was trying to make it look like you were, some kind of nutcase, because when people would look at her, I sat there studying her. When people like the police were asking her questions, she would sit there and she'd go like this, like, hey, look at this one's a nut.
Well, what can they possibly say? Lidya Radin's a lovely person, we lied?
But then also, it's when you were going through the paperwork, I asked you the question and I had you kind of keep quiet about it when we were standing there. But what would Jersey City Medical want with your school records? That's what I'd like to know.
Well, here's the
what would any hospital
be doing with
anybody's educational records?
Well, here's the thing that's really frightening. So let me set this up a little bit. In 2006, John Scarfone, who's a dishonest attorney, he's an associate general counsel for Yeshiva University, he went into federal court and he lied about me. I was named as a witness in another student's case. Other students, the reason why I was so important was that other students were calling me and they were building their cases online. Other students had asked me to go to their attorney's office. I was briefing their attorneys on the facts of the law. My work was so good that some of the attorneys were using my work. So I would draft, for example, letters to Elie Wiesel, Nobel Peace Prize winner, Holocaust survivor. One of the students that we were trying to help, I had contacts in the New York Jewish community, and I wrote a letter to Elie Wiesel, about 5 pages, that detailed some of the larger institutional issues, and that is, there's never been a hearing for a medical school student in the state of New York since the dawn of time.
See, now what I still don't understand, though, is why would a place like Jersey City Medical, why would they want to have your educational records?
Because here's the...
That's like going to an auto mechanic to have your car fixed and them asking for your medical records. That makes no sense.
Well, these weren't medical records, these were educational.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is, what would a medical hospital want with educational records?
Because they were trying to say that I was crazy and delusional and that I had these false beliefs. I don't have false beliefs. Marlene Abramova has a false belief system, and her delusional beliefs are that she is going, because she's so clever, she's going to use me to discredit school officials like John Scarfone. And then she figures she can go back to the New York Jewish community. She also went to relatives in Israel. She disgraced herself. She could have won her case. I could have easily demonstrated that she was illegally expelled and she didn't cheat with my anatomy exam. They expelled her claiming that she cheated. She didn't. Unfortunately, after they expelled her, she demonstrated that she was dishonest. She plagiarized for me. She demonstrated that she's stupid because in order to make her case to show that she wasn't cheating, she was thrown out of school. The school claimed that she cheated on an anatomy exam. I have my original anatomy exam. I can authenticate that in a court of law. And when I authenticate my original anatomy exam, she needs me. I don't need her. What I show is that the school lied about her. And I kept saying, well, if you're expelling this woman based on the fact that you're claiming she cheated, I want to see the original exam, because the original exam will show that she didn't cheat. And the school kept giving us photocopies and her attorney's photocopies, and I would go to her attorney's office and brief him on the law and the facts so he could build his case. They keep giving us black and white photocopies, and I'm like, where's the original exam? And the original exam is yellow, it's on yellow paper graded in red. And they kept making this stupid, because the lawyers just keep making up lie after lie after lie, and they keep telling these stupid lies. And they said, well, the reason why we're looking for black and white photocopies is because Todd Olson, that's the anatomy professor, is colorblind. This is the anatomy professor who's common to all our cases, and he's a liar. He's a dishonest professor. He's a tenured professor, so Yeshiva University can't fire him unless he does something really stupid, like bring false criminal charges against me, for example. So you know, we're working from these black and white photocopies and they claim that Todd Olson was colorblind. I'm like, well, if that were true, why is my anatomy exam printed on yellow paper graded with red ink? Because the first thing you learn in medical school, and Marlene Abramova should know this, is that people who are colorblind, there's one big group of colorblind people and they can't see red and green, and a subset of colorblind people who can't see yellow and blue. So if Todd Olson was colorblind, he would never be able to see an exam printed on yellow paper graded in red ink. So basically, he lied. I have my original anatomy exam, and David Holbrook gave me his exam. David Holbrook was a friend of mine in medical school. And so the students who knew what was going on were sharing information with me so that we could win our cases. We could easily authenticate our anatomy exams to show that the school lied, the promotions committee lied, and Todd Olson is a liar. So had Marlene Abramova not stabbed me in the back, had she protected me like I protected her, she would have won her case. Instead, she plagiarized from me. Apparently, I got some good reviews. She plagiarized from me, demonstrated that she was too dishonest to be a doctor. She's too stupid to be a doctor because she would realize that, you know, we could use our original anatomy exams to show that the school lied and that we're credible. And ultimately, with this latest incident, she showed that she lacks the compassion to be a doctor. Because she used her contacts, and the reason why Jersey City Medical Center had my educational records was because they show that John Scarfone lied. In 2006, Yeshiva University paid its attorney, John Scarfone, to go into federal court and lie about me in the Marlene Abramova case. So my contention is, I want my records, my school is lying about my past, and I'm going to pick out the most easy to understand examples so the general audience can understand them. You know, people in the viewing audience, the general people can, I didn't want to make a very sophisticated argument. I wanted it to be as simple to understand as possible. So John Scarfone in 2006 in the Abramova case went and claimed that I failed all my classes as a first-year student except for Todd Olson's anatomy class. That's not true. And my educational records show that that's not true. But even better, my educational records from Introduction to Clinical Medicine were signed by Dr. Blau. Dr. Blau is an experienced psychiatrist. He is an experienced psychiatrist. He has like 30 years of experience. I think he testified once in a case as an expert witness. And I'm like, so here's how they set me up. They continually forced me to go ask John Scarfone for my records, and John Scarfone is a dishonest attorney who went down to the Manhattan District Attorney's Office and claimed that he was annoyed that I should ask for my records, and he pressed criminal charges against me for aggravated harassment. Now is that the most ridiculous thing you've ever heard?
That's, I'd like to say what I want to say, but if I do that, you know, it's just going to be, me calling them certain expletives.
So what happened is, and I pulled this up, hold it.
Now, flash forward to today.
So what happened was, we're going to get to that in just 1 second. So what happened was, we went down to Jersey City Medical Center. I want to see my records. Jersey City Medical Center was in contact with my medical school. And why is this important? Is because in a landlord-tenant case, all the falsified records from my medical school falsified my financial records, they falsified my educational records, they falsified my medical records. And as I'm doing Freedom of Information Act requests, because I can't get my records from the school, I'm discovering that my school made false reports to outside agencies. And one of the things that they did is they illegally they falsified financial information to claim that I was eligible for student loan. I wasn't. To claim I was eligible for state and federal grants that I wasn't. And when I refused to pay for classes that I never got, they had me illegally declared in default on a student loan. My credit reports for life are damaged. And all of this is coming out in this landlord-tenant case where I'm going to my landlord saying, I'd like to move, but I can't pass the background check. Instead of attacking me, the innocent victim here, why don't we all get together with the dishonest attorney that you hired, Nino Falcone, go to my medical school and, get to the root of the problem. Give me my records. But here's the thing. You've got doctors at a medical school that are lying. And they've got criminal scheme after criminal scheme after criminal scheme. So they were in contact with Jersey City Medical Center, and out of my landlord-tenant case, I started to vindicate myself. And finally, one of the attorneys who tried to help me, Mr. James Daw, came forward in August of 2008 and basically I'd cleared my name at that point and said, look, you've been lying about her. She's not a terrorist. She's not deranged. She's not mentally ill. You've been lying about her for years. And at that point, the driving force was to create false medical records. And what they were trying to say was, we got rid of Lidya Radin because she's mentally ill. That's not true. They got rid of me because I refused to sign a contract releasing the school from liability in my case. And I can prove that.
Excuse me.
So what they did was they ran a criminal scheme in Jersey City. About 2 or 3 weeks ago, we went down to Jersey City. We demanded to see my medical records. I had never seen most of my medical records from February of 2008. And what we discovered was Jersey City Medical Center had my educational records. It has their medical sticker on it. And so I'm like, well, how can a hospital call up a college and get my educational records? They violated my right to privacy under FERPA, Federal Educational Rights and Privacy Act. So we're asking them, how is it possible that a hospital could call up a college and get your educational records? First of all, I have the rights of privacy, but secondly, I can't get my hands on my educational records because I got federal judges lying about this nonsense, but Jersey City Medical Center could get its hands. So basically what happened was my landlords went down to municipal court in Jersey City. They pressed false criminal charges against me. I pressed counter charges, and the Jersey City prosecutor made a subpoena, got their hands on my educational records, discovered that I was telling the truth, and this is in February of 2008. And what did Jersey City Medical Center do with evidence in February of 2008 that showed that I was telling the truth and my medical school was lying about my past? They concealed it. Do you believe these people?
Well, as far as them trying to protect themselves, yeah, I do believe that they'll do stuff.
I mean, these people are so, Jersey City Medical Center is so vicious, so malicious. They're not even, these are not doctors, these are monsters. They had evidence in their hands that showed that I was telling the truth and they concealed it. Had they turned that evidence, remember I'm going through a criminal proceeding here, so this is called the crime of obstruction of justice. Had they turned that evidence over to my attorney in February of 2008, I never would have been in Rikers Island. I never would have been prosecuted. So they're looking for a way to label me as a criminal, to get rid of me. And they can't do it in Jersey City because the municipal prosecutor won't prosecute because he's got the evidence that shows that I'm telling the truth, and they go forum shopping. And what they want to do is find a place where they can manipulate the system that's so corrupt. They were going to go to Nassau County where John Scarfone, he's the dishonest attorney who lied about me, there's an email where he's discussing how he's got a connection at the Nassau County District Attorney's Office. So they're considering doing this criminal scheme to get me in jail illegally in Nassau County. With who's in Nassau County? Rob Kozowski and the Nassau County Civic Association, and they're not going to have it. And they put their foot down. No, you're not going to have malicious prosecution in Nassau County. So they can't do it in Nassau County. So they go back to Manhattan. And in Manhattan, they get Assistant District Attorney Alex Spiro to be their stooge. And in July of 2008, that's when there was another subpoena made. The school released my educational records to Jess Berkowitz and Alex Spiro, and Jess Berkowitz and Alex Spiro conspired to once again, for a second time, conceal the evidence that showed that I was telling the truth and my medical school lied. They put me through a year of malicious prosecution. They illegally convicted me. They drop-kicked me into Rikers Island for 11 months, where my spinal injuries were made worse because I was beaten. And when I got out of Rikers Island, we went down, which was March of 2011, and you started looking at the evidence. You're like, holy, I can't say that on TV. Holy moly!
On cable access, you can say it. But.
Holy moly, this woman's telling the truth! So Keith LeBeau very kindly came down to Jersey City Medical Center with me about 2 or 3 weeks ago.
About 3 weeks ago.
And I showed him the educational records with the Jersey City sticker on them. And today we went down to the Jersey City prosecutor's office, and we're talking to the prosecutor, and I'm explaining this to the prosecutor, and the police didn't like it.
They showed up.
So why don't you tell them, how the police? Let me ask you something. So the police show up. They don't like this. One of the reasons they don't like this is because Judge Nelsie A. Rodriguez, she's the chief judge in town. Judge Rodriguez, the chief judge in town, lied. And and so did Stacy Dix Kubiowski. Stacy Dix Kubiowski is the so-called senior therapist at Jersey City Medical Center. And Stacy Dix Kubiowski, in order to cooperate in this organized criminal conspiracy, on October 2nd, 2008, I got my medical records, and I'm going to quote them. Quote, as per Stacy, patient has been mailing threatening letters to Judge Rodriguez, end quote. First of all, I'm not Stacy Dix Kubiowski's patient. This woman is a psychopath. She's running around telling people I'm her patient. She's a liar. I want orders of protection and criminal prosecution. I want to be left alone by this woman. Second of all, if I'm mailing threatening letters to the chief judge in town,
Produce them.
I want to see them. It's 3 bloody freaking years already. If there are threatening letters to Judge Rodriguez, that's it. So I go to Debbie Simon at the Hudson County Prosecutor's Office. I'm like, Debbie, and this was like 2.5 years ago. I go to Debbie Simon, who could have put a stop to this and been prosecuting a whole bunch of criminals and cleaning up the town. But she's such a racist. She's busy cooperating with my medical school, and it's not anti-Semitic for me to tell the truth. Debbie Simon is a racist, and she cooperates to promote the interests of racist Zionists at my medical school. She's not a prosecutor. She's a co-conspirator, and it's not anti-Semitic for me to tell the truth. That's just the truth.
Now, if she had produced these letters, it would have put a stop to everything. But since she refuses to basically, you know, up the evidence, you know, all it's doing is just damning her and making your case that much stronger.
And making Jersey City a terrible place to live, because it's very frightening. I mean, think about this. We've got Donald Trump in town. This is why I went to Mayor Healy now. 3 times, Mayor Healy. And this is what they're telling you. They're telling you, Mayor Healy, that you don't run your town. And that's not true. You got to start throwing your weight around here, Mayor Healy, because, you know, what they're really saying is if you come into Jersey City, we'll make a couple phone calls to the psychiatric ER. We'll jump you. We'll hold you like a prisoner. That's the crime of false imprisonment. And then your family can steal all your money. Historically, that's how psychiatry has been used to hurt women. I'm like, so Donald Trump, you think you're going to sell real estate in our town? They're destroying the town for these horrible people. So I go to Debbie Simon 2.5 years ago. I'm like, Debbie Simon, you know how much effort this is? This is a phone call from Debbie Simon at the Hudson County Prosecutor's Office to the chief judge in town, Judge Nelsie A. Rodriguez. Judge Rodriguez, if Miss Radin has been mailing you threatening letters, please fax them to my office. I want to see them, and copies of the postmarked envelopes. So for 2.5 years, do you see any threatening letters from me to Judge Rodriguez? No, because there aren't any. Because what really happened was that Nino Falcone, municipal court judge Nino Falcone, lives in North Bergen with my landlords, the Pagnosis. They hired him. He has a reputation for being a dishonest attorney. I believe there were at least 2 ethical complaints against him. I'll be making a 3rd. And Nino Falcone mailed me a threatening letter in December of 2007. That's how the propaganda works, okay? A judge mailed me a threatening letter. And Judge Falcone had lost against me. We were going into a 4th frivolous eviction proceeding. My eviction is illegal from start to finish. He sent me notices in violation. When he sent me this threatening letter, I went straight down to criminal court. I had a witness with me. I got orders I got no contact orders, and in violation of those no contact orders, Nino Falcone sent me notices to start yet a 4th frivolous eviction proceeding. So my eviction from Jersey City was illegal from start to finish. We went through a whole bunch of stupidity, and then after Judge Fass came up with this bogus ruling against me in early September of 2008, after that, a few weeks after that, my landlords cashed my checks, thereby, as part of post-judgment relief, accepting me as a tenant. There was no eviction. And so Judge Falcone was so angry, so frustrated, that a few days later, this was on Thursday, September 25th, 2008, I go to Judge Fast. I'm like, Judge Fast, it doesn't matter how you ruled because my landlords cashed my checks. Judge Fast admitted that there was no eviction. And days later, so this is Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, 6 days later, Nino Falcone picked up the phone and lied to a psychiatric hospital, claiming that psychiatric wing of Jersey City Medical Center, claiming that I was being evicted and they had to help me through an eviction. They weren't helping me. Those people almost murdered me. And then they tried to cover it up. And so there was no eviction on Wednesday, October 1st, 2008. The day before, on Tuesday, September 30th, 2008, Judge Falcone called Jersey City Medical Center and lied. And what's missing from my records at Jersey City Medical Center is the screening document from Tuesday, September 30th, 2008. That document has been deliberately removed to make a false record. Judge Falcone called Stacy Dix-Kubiowski, and once again, Stacy Dix-Kubiowski made a false record. This is happening that's called fraud. On Tuesday, September 30th, 2008, I go down to the hospital once again to say, leave me the hell alone. You're not helping me. I won. This is retaliatory. Me and my family have the right to be left alone. They jumped me. They jumped my mother's boyfriend. They held me as a prisoner in their locked psychiatric ward illegally. They refused to produce court orders. There's absolutely no court order for this. This is how these criminals operate. And then days later, this is happening on Tuesday, September 30th, Wednesday, October 1st. I'm telling the truth. My brother comes out from California. My mother hires attorneys. Leave her the hell alone already. And then on Thursday, October 2nd, 2008, Stacy Dix-Kubiowski lies again. And she says, quote, as per Stacy, patient has been mailing threatening letters to Judge Rodriguez. This is on Thursday, October 2nd, 2008. And a week before, everybody knew that was a lie. Because a week before, on Thursday, September 25th, 2008, there was a fax from the municipal court in Jersey City to the hospital. And that fax showed that there was a written request from me to Judge Rodriguez to have her recuse herself, and there was, in my case, and there was nothing threatening in that communication. So we go down to Jersey City Medical Center in the past 3 weeks. We realized, oh my goodness, the school has there's documentary evidence that shows I was telling the truth. The hospital intentionally hid this evidence. The only way they could get this, unless they want to admit to violating my rights under federal law, and I just discovered this, the only thing that could have happened was that the municipal prosecutor made a subpoena. Now, whose name do you think will be on that subpoena? Which judge do you think signed it? That would be Judge Rodriguez, the woman who's lying about me. So we go down today, we go down to the municipal court, and we go to see the municipal prosecutor, and we speak to the prosecutor.
And the municipal court is a public building, is it not?
Yes, it is. And we go talk to the prosecutor. The police freak out. Judge Rodriguez freaks out. The prosecutor's trying to help. We exit the building, and what happened? Why don't you tell me what happened?
We were leaving the building. Basically, we were escorted to the entrance of the building by...
Oh, you can mention their names. It was Officer...
Litchfield.
Let's say his badge number.
It's number 2684. But it was not him. It was the other gentleman.
The other officer, badge number 2560.
Who looked like he had a few too many donuts and coffees. He escorted us out of the building. There was no problem there. It was when Officer Litchfield, badge number 2684 of the Jersey City Police Department, showed up and began to threaten Miss Radin in front of me.
Now, I want you to say this. The man threatened me. It's a public building. I have a right to be there. I can sit in any courtroom and listen to anything I want. I never threatened Judge Rodriguez. Judge Rodriguez is a threat to me. For 3 years now, that woman has been running around telling people that I mailed her threatening letters and she can't produce them because there are no threatening letters from me to Judge Rodriguez. Judge Rodriguez, in June of 2008, I told her when I was applying for a public defender, my medical school was engaged in federal student loan fraud. She had every opportunity to put a stop to federal loan fraud. She conspired to commit federal student loan fraud in July 10th, 2008. And July 30th, 2008, I stood up in front of Judge Rodriguez with two different public defenders and asked her to give me a written no-contact orders so that when my landlords violated her no-contact orders, I would have something in writing to show the police. July 10th, 2008, July 30th, 2008, we explained everything to Judge Rodriguez on the record. Please, Judge Rodriguez, give me a written no-contact order so that I will have something to show the police, and she refused. After that, in early August of 2008, my landlords violated Judge Rodriguez's no-contact order. Every time I went down to the municipal court, as I was instructed to do, to say my landlords have violated the no-contact order and have that no-contact order enforced, the police refused to protect me. The municipal employees refused to take my legitimate complaints. And when I outed Judge Rodriguez on September 12th, 2008, that's when she got her back up. And that's when she called Jersey City Medical Center and they started lying about me. Because what Judge Rodriguez doesn't want anybody to know is that she doesn't protect the residents in Jersey City. Had she enforced the no-contact order, as Ralph and Magda Pagnozzi violated Judge Rodriguez's no-contact order in early August of 2008, at least 5 or 6 times. Had she enforced that court order, they would be in jail right now. And if they had gone to jail, then I never would have been physically assaulted and almost murdered at Jersey City Medical Center on September 30th, 2008.
See, now that's the sick thing, because if you look in, historically, if you look through the papers, you'll find, victims of domestic violence that have had orders of protection against people, and where are the cops for all of this? Not available. What they do is they show up after the person's either dead or been beaten half to death. And see, that's what I don't understand. You know you have a job to do. You have an order of protection. That means that there's something serious going on. Shouldn't you step in and say, hey, this is what's going on. We know the situation. We know it's bad. We'll do something for you about it. But
oh, I begged the cops. I mean, I had my mother and her boyfriend were coming up to Jersey City. They were staying with me. We were testifying against my landlords. My landlords had engaged in income tax fraud. These are serious crimes. In my landlord-tenant case, I had a self-identified Israeli, Asaf Rosenheim, confess to immigration fraud. In my landlord-tenant case, which is happening at this level, this is like at the state level, I had Asaf Rosenheim was called as a witness against me. He confessed on the witness stand in July of 2008 to immigration fraud. Okay? I have real criminals confessing to real crimes in front of Judge Falcone, who was acting as the attorney for Ralph and Magda Pagnozzi, and Judge Fast. And Judge Fast is listening not only to a confession to immigration fraud and lying to Homeland Security by the self-identified Israeli, but he's also listening to enough detailed information so he knows that my landlords have committed income tax fraud. And Judge Fast is not an idiot. He's an expert. He worked with the IRS. He has the expertise to know that he was listening to income tax fraud. And so this is happening in July of 2008. And as the criminal the charges are being pursued in city court, which is the lower court, and I'm begging Judge Rodriguez. I'm like, look, we're testifying against my landlords. I'm begging this woman, give me a no-contact order. I call the police. And I'm like, okay, there's a verbal no-contact order. Call the court and confirm. And they're laughing at me, going, ha, 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 you don't have anything in writing. There's nothing we can do. I'm like, are you kidding me? Ha, 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 ha. You have nothing in writing. There's nothing we can do. They had when my mother's boyfriend came down to Jersey City Medical Center with me to say, hey, leave us alone, they physically assaulted him. He's a gentleman in his 70s. And what do I get from the Jersey City police? Ha, 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 ha. My mother went down to the Jersey City Police Department, begged the guy to come to the hospital where I was being held as a prisoner. The police officer comes in, and I'm telling the police officer, listen to me, I'm in a door frame, and the frame of the door, I'm standing in the door frame, and I'm talking to the cop next to me. You see this door frame? It loosely approximates the frame of a wall in my apartment that my landlords claim I took down. I didn't damage their property by taking this wall down. But officer, there was a shoddy repair made, and you can go into my apartment. You can go to my apartment, which is about 10 minutes away, and I'm going to tell you where to look at the shoddy repair. And you're going to see that in the spackle where my landlord made the shoddy repair, you can see his fingerprints. So you know I'm telling the truth and he's lying. And you can actually get his fingerprints. You can't lift them off the way you usually do. But I'm going to describe to you how you can, first of all, you can take, in the different corners where of the wall, you can see Ralph Pagnosi's thumbprints, his fingerprints where he was spackling and he accidentally left his fingerprints. You can actually take some of that plaster so you can see it, but you can go to the art store and you can get soft tracing paper, put it over that with a little charcoal pencil. Mm-hmm. You can vary, because it's a relief, right?
Yeah.
Because it's when you stick your thumbprints into spackle, it's like sticking your thumbprints into clay. So you get these little ridges, and if you put soft tracing paper over it and a little charcoal pencil, you can actually get a print. So you're not lifting prints the way you usually do, where you dust and you lift. You're getting them a different way, and I don't need the whole print. I mean, on a quarter of a print, I could actually get Ralph Pagnosi's fingerprints and show that he's in the apartment. You know why they wanted me out of that apartment so badly? Because that entire apartment was filled with fingerprints. You wouldn't believe the fingerprints I could have got. No. So what they wanted to do was get me out of the apartment, paint everything over to destroy evidence. So I'm begging this police officer, and what do I get? There's nothing we can do. Ha, 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 ha. Jersey City is an incredibly dangerous place to live.
That sounds like the neighborhood I come from. I've actually called my local precinct about guys riding scooters, which are motor vehicles, on the sidewalk, and when you tell the cops this, the cops say, well, if we didn't see it, it didn't happen. That's like telling me, oh, well, these guys have a license to kill you. I also was standing with a cop one day in the opening of a train station right next to where I live. And in the course of the conversation with the cop, I said, you know, something has to be done about these guys riding on the sidewalk. I said, you know, it's dangerous. They ride pretty fast. I said, you know, God forbid a little kid or an elderly person or even somebody's pet gets in front of them, they're dead. That's it. Game over. And these people are just going to get up and they're going to go on their merry way, and it's going to be either the person or the pet that's going to be laying there dead. Now, in the course of me saying this to him, he goes, his exact words were, that is my biggest pet peeve, that these guys are on the sidewalk. And as he says this, a motorized scooter goes right by, and what does he do? He stands there. He doesn't do a thing to the person. I looked at him and I said, it figures, and just walked away from him.
So the bottom line, ladies and gentlemen, is we have to protect ourselves because nobody else is going to do it, and that's disgusting. So on that note,
talking about protecting yourself,
no, there's something that
why don't we bring up yesterday?
Okay.
This gentleman that she once lived with, you know, from what I was told, you know,
Dan Caro, my roommate.
Throughout our course of conversations, Dan Caro has actually tried to come up with some frivolous evictions himself.
Well, after I was illegally evicted from Jersey City, I asked my friends to help me, and I called Dan Caro, and here's how I treated. Let's take a look at Dan Caro, because everybody needs to see Dan Caro. And let me just do this real quick. This is Dan Caro's page on Facebook. This is Dan Caro, and
This guy makes me laugh.
He doesn't make me laugh. This guy was, this guy is dangerous. The police will not protect you. So you know something, ladies and gentlemen, we have to protect ourselves. So this is an alert. This gentleman is dangerous. Dan, wait. Dan Caro and I knew each other for over 10 years. We used to work out together at the YMCA. There was a point in time where he needed a job. And I don't want to go into all the details, but the bottom line is he was being discriminated against. I'm like, you know something, Dan? You don't have to go through all the details about this. I know what's happening to you is wrong. I'm the marketing director at a Fortune 300 company. You have some, it seems to me that you have some good customer service skills. Come work for my company for a couple of years, establish the fact that you can get hired on a permanent job, and then go out and find the job that you want, okay? So I got Dan Caro a job at a Fortune 300 company. Now, I recommended him for hire. There were at least 3 other hiring managers, Susie Showen, Tom, his last name starts with an L, I forget his last name, and Christian Figueredo, and me, Lidya Radin. We were the hiring managers. I just didn't hire him alone. This was a team effort. We all interviewed him. And then the final say-so was a guy named Andrew Langler, who was director and general manager. So at least 5 people hired Dan based on my recommendation, and we hired Dan and gave him a job.
Now, fast forward to now.
Okay, so what happened is after I was illegally evicted from Jersey City, we lived together as roommates. I established my tenancy. I paid Dan for a year, and then finally the owner of the building said, well, I want you to pay rent directly to me. So for the second year I lived in Washington Heights, I paid rent directly to the landlord as per the landlord's request. The landlord even gave me a security key to the building. You know those, they were chained.
Pass keys?
Yeah, those, you get them like a hotel.
Yeah, a card.
And you don't give these electronic security cards to people who are not legal tenants. I mean, you had to sign for it. If I wasn't there legally, the landlord would have never given it to me voluntarily. I signed for it. So the bottom line is I'm a legal tenant. The first year that I lived there, I paid rent directly to Dan. Dan signed a notarized letter saying he accepted me as a tenant. He cashed checks, which I can prove, for a year. I don't know how Dan was managing the money, but we kept getting called into landlord-tenant court for non-payment of rent. I always pay my rent. So finally, the landlords and the management company said, look, we don't know what Dan's doing. Just pay rent directly to us, Lydia. So the second year that I lived there, I paid rent directly to the landlord. I was a legal tenant. And the landlord, the owner of the building, not Dan Caro now, but the owner of the building is saying, Lydia, pay me directly. And I have all those receipts. So I'm a legal tenant. Apparently, Dan Caro got into some trouble, and apparently he owed someone some money, and decided that he would lie. He knew that I was going through this bogus criminal prosecution. Dan knew the people I was dealing with. He knew much more than you. He knew that I was telling the truth. I had original documents that I was putting in his hands. I'm like, Dan, you have to believe me. I've got more information than I know what to do with. You've known me for over 10 years. You know that I'm telling the truth. Here's all the people that you can call to check. I mean, I've got more evidence that I know what to do with. And the bottom line is, because Dan owed someone a few $100s, when I was going through this malicious prosecution, he decided to take predatory advantage. And as we were, the criminal trial was in April of 2010. We were going into a lease signing the next month. And Dan figured if he lied and he drop-kicked me to Rikers Island, then he could get rid of me and I wouldn't have my name on the lease of a rent-stabilized apartment in Manhattan. Is this guy a piece of work or what?
Well, he's a piece of something that I don't want to say on TV right now.
So here's what he does. After I'm illegally convicted, the probations department calls him and he lies. And what he says is, oh, our relationship is confined to the 2 years that we lived together as roommates. That's not true. I knew Dan Caro for over 10 years. And when he got in trouble and needed a job, I got him a job at a Fortune 300 company. and we gave, and to our credit, the people that worked at this Fortune 300 company, you know, we weren't stupid people. All the managers there had been around the block a couple times, and even Andrew Lankler, who worked there, got into a little trouble with the city government because he was standing up to his own crime and corruption, and so there were a lot of people who were working at the Fortune 300 company that I was working at who had experience with crime.
No, he got you illegally incarcerated.
If Dan Caro had told the truth, it would have been a factor in me not going to Rikers Island. So after I come out of Rikers Island, and he's responsible for putting me there, where I experienced at least 3 beatings that made my spinal injuries worse. He tried to have me illegally evicted by going through a landlord-tenant court. And that didn't work. He dashes down to family court and he lies some more. And yesterday, I won in family court. So Dan Caro, I give the guy a job, and what does he do? He lies.
Now,
this is Dan Caro. Go ahead, keep talking.
He was lying. He said the two of them had a physical relationship.
Oh, wait. This is really the good part. In order to get to, thank you for bringing this up. In order to get into family court, to try to get orders of protection, which are, you know, like, this is like criminal stuff.
One of the things he did was he went through family court, tried to get an order of eviction. I mean, protection. Excuse me. He says they had a physical relationship. Now, what he
admitted yesterday was that he lied.
He admitted yesterday that he lied. But also, he said that she was harassing him and sending letters under the door. Now, I know for a fact only one letter went under the door, and I was there for that.
And so were 2 police officers.
And it was done in the presence of 2 police officers, who then the next day we showed back up at the same place, at this guy's apartment, to try and collect some of Miss Radin's belongings. Now, he starts spouting off about her being psychotic, stalking him,
every lie he could
threatening, and she wasn't able to get into the apartment.
And my belongings are in the apartment. I still have furniture in there. But the bottom line is...
There might be other stuff also, like personal effects in the place. But with him, you know, who knows if they're still there. Now,
but here's the thing. In order to go to family court and try to characterize me as there's something wrong with me, he had to lie to a judge. And he had to lie to a judge and say that in order to get into family court and try to get orders of protection, the only way you can do it is if you have the only way to get into family court is to claim that you have an intimate relationship. So that's a boyfriend-girlfriend sexual relationship. That's not true. Yesterday, the judge asked him, Mr. Caro, you know, do you have an intimate relationship with Miss Radin? No. And yesterday, and this is on the record, and yesterday in family court, Dan Caro also admitted that we knew each other for over 10 years. So when he said that on the record, that means that he admitted to a year before, when you told the probations officer that our relationship was limited to the 2 years we spent as roommates, you lied. You lied to a probations officer to have me put in jail.
You committed perjury.
Well, it's not perjury because he wasn't under oath, but this was after I...
He lied on an official document. That's perjury.
You may be right about that, but this is what I can tell you. You lie to put someone in jail, you're probably going to do jail time yourself. And can you imagine how sick, how malicious, how sociopathic? I give the guy a job at a Fortune 300 company so that he can establish a work history, so he can go on with his life. Because who knows better than me what it's like to be persecuted? Because my medical school has been doing it to me for 22 years. I tried to help this guy. I mean, I understand discrimination, Dan, because I got, 3 steps behind me is a bunch of racist Zionists who've been stalking me for 22 years, almost murdered me. And what does Dan do? He lies. This is Dan Caro's Facebook page. He's dangerous to others.
Now, right here in my hands is...
Wait, they're not seeing that because they're looking at Dan Caro's Facebook page. So this is Dan Caro, ladies and gentlemen.
That's what the marshmallow looks like. Now.
Wait. And because we're running out of time, we want to get this in. Wait.
This right here in my hands.
I got that actually on the
is an order of dismissal, which you can see on the website. This vacates anything that he had to try and stand against her with. This clears the way for her to vindicate herself. It also will give her the chance to prove that he lied on official court documents about his relationship with Miss Radin and a few other things in the past. Now, this order, and it says right here, and the court finds that after examining the family offense and relationship allegations in the petition, it is hereby ordered that the petition is dismissed.
So the order of protection has been
for following reason.
But you know what's going to happen? You know why Dan went to a family court? These are all now a whole bunch of, this is exactly what my medical school does. This is part of the criminal scheme. See all this? These are all the false records now that I have to deal with. So here's what Dan Rizal and the Albert Einstein College. See this? This is page after page after page of nonsense. And I can tell you exactly how this is going to be used. Here's how this is going to be used. Words and phrases are going to be taken out of context, misconstrued, and the whole purpose of this nonsense was to create yet another false record that sometime in the future is going to be used against me. Because this is a stupid little game that these people play. So the bottom line is, here's the judge. Now, Dan is doing this in July of 2011. And he does this the day before I'm taking him into landlord-tenant court to say, look, you illegally changed the locks. You've got my furniture, my clothes, my personal effects. Can you please give me my stuff? I didn't stalk him at the apartment. We had to call the police, and the police told us, make sure you call us, because we don't want this guy making false allegations. So
which he did anyway.
Well, but we didn't enter that apartment illegally. The police accompanied us, and you were there as my witness, and other people were in the neighborhood were there as my witness. So this guy goes in front of the judge, and he tells the judge in his petition we're roommates. Now, the judge could have put a stop to this. The judge didn't have to put me through all this nonsense for weeks and months and create all these ridiculous, this is exactly the stupid little game that they play. We're keeping an eye on the countdown clock because we're trying to get this information in, because this is the criminal in Washington. These are the criminals in Washington Heights. We talked to City Councilman Rodriguez about this week. These people are dangerous. They're in our neighborhood. You need to know who they are, okay? So the bottom line is, when Dan Carroll went to family court and told the family court intake clerk, she's my roommate, all they had to do was ask him, listen, are you having sex with this woman? Is this a romantic relationship? Are you living together? Is this an intimate relationship? He would have said no, and it would have been stopped there, and all of this would not have happened. You would not believe what this guy put me through for weeks, okay? It's bad enough that I have to fight my medical school, but now I have to fight a guy that the only thing I did was give a job to? Are you for real with this? Then he goes in front of the judge. So the clerk, the intake clerk at family court here in Manhattan could have put a stop to this by simply asking one question. Do you have an intimate relationship with Lidya Radin? No. And he admitted that on the record yesterday in court, okay? So I didn't have to go from July of 2011 to September of 2011 being put through yet another malicious prosecution had simply the court clerk asked one question. Now Dan Carroll goes in front of the judge. The judge could have asked the same question. So in his petition, the first thing he says is, we were roommates. And the judge could have said, listen, were you living together because you decided to be roommates because you were in love? Did you have sex? Were you boyfriend, girlfriend? Is there an intimate relationship here, Mr. Carroll? No. Then get out of my court, because you don't have a reason to come into family court and go through malicious prosecution. But that wasn't the goal here. The goal here was to create all these false records that now sometime in the future will be taken out of context. Words and phrases will be taken out of context, so I can be persecuted for the rest of my life. So ladies and gentlemen, this is Dan Carroll, who conspires with the Albert Einstein College of Medicine to stalk an innocent person through their life. And you need to know who this guy is and stay away from him, because he is dangerous to others. This is Dan Carroll on Facebook. He lives in our neighborhood.
He's the type of person that is like the OJ song, Backstabbers. Smile in your face, all the while he's trying to take your place. He's a backstabber.
You know what I really love about his petition? We got about 5 minutes left. But you know what I really love about his petition? When he goes in, and by the way, I have this in his original handwriting, and I have no choice now but to pursue criminal charges against him, get an order of protection, pursue civil charges against him. I don't even know what he's done with my belongings. But the part I really love here is that he tries to portray me as a lunatic, and he says, oh, she's been in Rikers Island Psychiatric Department for the past year. Because of me, I called for an investigation while I was in Rikers Island. What these doctors are doing is wrong. While I was in prison, I called for an investigation at the Board of Corrections. The Board of Corrections came down to Rikers Island. They sat down with the director of Rikers Island Mental Health Department, not represented in these court documents, and they admitted that they were breaking the law. So, ladies and gentlemen, because I was in Rikers Island, and because I had to suffer through doctors who lied, crooked doctors, I had an investigator from the Board of Corrections come down, and now the place is a little bit more honest. Your tax dollars are spent a little bit more honestly, actually providing service. I was sending inmates in saying, get your medical records, they're going to be falsified. Here's how the scam works. And the inmates are coming back saying, now, Lydia, when we get services through mental health, we sign for them. So here's how the scam at Rikers Island works. Anytime they want to get even with you, any blue shirt prison guard or white shirt captain will write you up for strange behavior. They'll make something up. They drag you down. If you don't go voluntarily, they'll drag you down by force. You'll refuse. The doctors will ignore it, and they'll make false medical records, and then they'll bill the city. Okay? So Alex Spiro and Mr. Vance, and District Attorney Mr. Vance, these are false business records. Maintaining false business records is a crime. You're supposed to know that better than me, District Attorney Vance. You should be prosecuting these people, because our tax dollars should not go to financing crooked doctors at Rikers Island. But because of me, it's a little harder now for the crooked doctors to steal money and hurt people.
In the future, on another show, I will be talking about crooked doctors myself.
I think you should be very careful about that. If I were you, I would strongly advise, I'm saying this on the record, for you not to be talking about your crooked doctors just now in time. Let's just stick to my crooked doctors. Your crooked doctors, I don't think you want to get into right now.
Well, like I said, it'll be in the future that I'll be
way
speaking
in the future.
about
You may never talk about them at all. I think you're making a real mistake here. I really don't think you should be talking about that. I think you have other things to talk about. But the bottom line is, Dan Cower tried to portray me in his petition as some sort of lunatic at Rikers Island Mental Health Department. And the bottom line is that doctors at Rikers Island Mental Health Department will have it a little harder to hurt inmates and a little harder to steal money, because I called for an investigation by the Board of Corrections, and I followed up when I got out of prison, and they told me they got admissions of guilt. So what I want to know is, where's the criminal prosecution? Where's the criminal prosecution? And you know what?
Blue wall of silence. That's where it comes down.
No, it's. I'll tell you exactly what's happening here. The brains of this. It's not about episode after episode after episode after episode that makes the argument for me that I'm being stalked through life. The brains of these criminal schemes, Martin Bockstein. All roads lead to Martin Bockstein. And when you start putting pressure on Martin Bockstein's puppets, they're going to crack, and they're going to point the finger at Martin Bockstein. Dishonest former general counsel at Yeshiva University, who used me in criminal scheme after criminal scheme after criminal scheme. We got less than 2 minutes left. I want to thank you, Mr. LeBeau. We have a professional working relationship. We're fighting crime and corruption.
Batman and Robin.
And now we're out.